We're here on Burrow Beach. This is one of the main spots in Dublin. It is probably the secondary most main spot to Dollymount Beach. It's an excellent beach. It takes winds pretty much with most northerly conditions in it, so anything from a northwest through to northerly right round to northeast. On paper it looks like it can take a west, but in practicalities down here you realise that the westerly can be a bit dicey down here just due to currents and the channel itself. It has been known as the board graveyard sometimes in westerlies. Getting here is pretty straightforward. The most easy description is if you're coming from Dublin city centre, you take the coast road to Clontarf that is on the way to Howth, and you just keep coming down that coast road. If you can see the sea on your right hand side, you're on the right direction. You go by Dollymount Beach. Eventually you'll hit Sutton Cross, which is a big crossroads where you'll see usually a big Ireland flag flying on a flag post, and there's also a Bank of Ireland bank there and a Super Quinn. At that crossroads you're going to take a left hand turn. The minute you take that left hand turn, you're looking for the first right hand turn available. It's a very small narrow road, so it's very easy to miss. There's a bus stop on your right hand side. Right after that bus stop you're going to take the right hand turn. When you take that right hand turn, you're heading down a small narrow road. You're heading towards the train tracks to the Dart crossover. Once you cross over, you've hit a T-junction. You're going to swing a right hand turn there, and you're going to drive along again another narrow road. This is actually Burrow Road itself. So you're driving on that road. The first house you see on your left hand side, you're going to pull in somewhere along here. The access to the beach is via a green gate which says Cush Cottage Private Property. Thankfully, we're lucky enough that the owners of this house have allowed us access to and from the beach. So we don't want to drive any vehicles down this road or park here, but we are actually allowed to park on the street. Access for parking on the road is pretty important. Residents have asked us not to park on the same side as the house, so opposite the houses on the same side as the Dart, the train tracks. So yeah, once you're here, there's two main bodies of water. There is the channel itself, and there is also then out the back of the channel as well. Out the back of the channel tends to be more wavy. You can usually find 1 or 2 knots of stronger wind out there, and maybe it might be a little bit steadier. That's open to debate. But basically, out there is a little bit more wavier. As the tide drops and the channel becomes isolated by the sandbar, you get much flatter water in here in the channel. Super for freestyle or speed runs. You'll also see a lot of windsurfers in here doing speed runs, so it's good to be aware that you could be competing for a bit of space. Local obstructions to be aware of. There is, on full tide, there is a line of rocks. It's an old pipeway that will be in the water. It will be submerged and you won't see it, so it's good to see it at low tide to be able to see it on maps, but it's a hazard definitely if you haven't seen it and the tide is dropping. It's very easy to run into this and damage yourself and your equipment. Good to be aware of. Other local hazards out here are the tides. The tides themselves can be quite strong when the tide is in mid-flow. You've got a body of water there in the Baldoyle Estuary, which basically is filling or emptying, so if the tide is going out, your board is going to be washing out to sea towards Ireland's Eye, and we probably won't see it again. If you're out here in a westerly wind, that's pretty much adios to your board. If the tide is coming in, you'll find that the water is actually filling, and if you lose your board or you come off, it will probably end up in there around the corner from the golf clubhouse. So it's good to know where to find your board if you do lose it, but it is to be aware of. Other hazards on the beach are, it's a particularly shelly beach, a lot of shells, so even in warm conditions you'll see a lot of guys wearing booties out here because their feet take a pasting, especially if you're learning, you're doing a lot of water starts and standing back up, your feet really can take a good scraping on the soles of your feet, so it's good to be aware that if you have a pair of booties, especially if you're doing a lot of starts and stops, it's good. At high tide, setup area is very small. There's very little beach left. You can do it in the dunes, obviously. Just need to be careful of your kite getting snagged or pinholes put in it by the marrow grass in the small dunes here. But at low tide there's some excellent space, excellent setup areas. Again, you just need to be aware of whether the tide is coming in or going out as to where you leave your gear on the beach.